Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be looking at some of the work I've done on the enemy AI behavior and the UI and inventory system. So let's jump in. So in my previous item interaction system, essentially every item I would put into the world, it would have a collision radius around it. And then if you walked into that radius, it would give you the prompt that you could interact with it. And if you did, it would essentially destroy that item from the world and then equip it onto your character. The problem with that is it would just replace whatever was already on your character. So if you had a weapon and you picked up another weapon, your previous weapon is just gone, and the new thing you picked up would just kind of overwrite what was in your hand. But I wanted to be able to have an inventory system so that you could pick up multiple things and switch between them depending on, maybe you want to use a different weapon for a different enemy or try out just different builds or whatever. So I've updated the system. So the current system actually, it uses a trace just like the weapon swing to detect if I'm hitting an enemy with my sword. But this is just a trace that looks straight out from the camera. So basically, whenever I push the button, it shoots out a little trace directly in front, and if it sees an item there and it collides with it, it'll interact with it and pick it up. So I have a few random items laying out here, so I'll just pick these up. Alright. There's an enemy coming at us. I'm going to back up here. Alright. So now that I've picked up these items, I can open up my little equipment screen here. So this is the start of the UI here. Very basic at the moment. A lot of just square shapes and default font options and that sort of thing. Honestly, I'm just learning how this stuff works, and I will hope to, give it some personality and make it look better at a later date. I might need to reach out to some people with actual art skills to help me out. Right now, I have just used screenshots of items from the game that I manipulated in Photoshop for my equipment here. So you see, if I hover over one of these slots, it becomes interactable. So for my shield, here's that shield that I picked up. So whenever I click on one of these slots, any items that I have that fit in that slot will show up. So this is my real basic starter UI here. So I have an image of the shield, the name of the shield, and then some stats. Right now, I just have a couple of placeholders for like a damage stat, and this green one is intended to be like a weight stat or something like that. Basically thinking, depending on how heavy your weapon is or something, it might use more stamina to swing it. But so if I click on that, it'll go ahead and equip. And then I have my sword over here. A relic. So my idea for the relic is going to be like a passive buff kind of thing. I don't have any, solid plans for that at the moment, but, it'd be like, a ring or an amulet or something that you would have in another game. And then offering over here, my plan for the offering is, sort of like you in a Dark Souls game, you rest at a bonfire to heal yourself. In this game, I am thinking that you will essentially pray, and you can give offerings when you pray to get certain health bonuses or stat bonuses or something like that. Almost like in Witcher when you would, kneel down somewhere and create some potions or whatever, do some alchemy. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like maybe you can find a shrine or something like that, and you can pray and you can give an offering, and it'll increase the strength of your prayer or something like that. But that is stuff I'm still just kicking around. So now that I got this stuff equipped, I'll close it. I can unsheath now, and you can see I have the shield and the sword equipped that I just had. So now I'm going to go up here and start fighting some enemies. So got a couple of different enemies right now. I'm still working on the AI and stuff. So right now, both of them have AI to essentially patrol to a random spot near them when they don't see me. When they do see me, they just start basically chasing after me. This guy right here doesn't have the attack AI just yet, so he just walks to me and then stands still. This guy does have the attack animations, but I haven't set up the the trace and the damage and that sort of stuff yet. And sorry, I know the frame rate is kind of crappy. Whoa, I just flung that guy halfway across the map. Okay. Well, one of the things I've still got to figure out is there's some wacky physics going on here. It's like sometimes when I hit the enemy, they'll just kind of go flying around. So I got to figure out what that is. Something else that I've been messing around with is, if you see in the top left corner here, I've got a bunch of numbers flying by. That is essentially my walking speed. So right now it's 400. I think it's in centimeters per second or something like that. But 400 is kind of like my standard outdoor walking speed, and then when I sprint, it goes to 800, so it's like doubling. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to try having a slower movement speed inside the building. Basically, I wanted, like, when you're inside the building, for it to be, slow and deliberate and tense, not just, sprinting through buildings. And, also because it's, the interiors are kind of small, so to make it feel a little better, I wanted to, I set up this volume that you can't see right now, but basically when I walk into this volume, it reduces my walking speed. So, outside it's 400. Now that I'm inside, it's 200. So slows things down a little bit. And then again, when I block, I'm reducing it a little bit even more. So now it's down to 200. And then, if I'm sprinting inside, now it's 500. So basically sprint is always double your current walking speed. But things that I've been, running into, little bugs, is like if I'm holding block, now I've reduced my speed to 200 because I'm blocking and I'm indoors. Now if I sprint, now it's 400 instead of 500. But now that I stop sprinting, instead of going back to 250 at a normal walk, now I'm 225 because when I stop sprinting, I divide my speed in half again, but because my speed was already reduced because I was blocking, now I reduced it by more than I intended to. So I gotta figure out like how to make these changes without it like getting all wacky like that. And I gotta work on this guy's collision too, and should be hitting him and I'm not sometimes. And yeah, there's some of that wacky physics going on. Definitely don't want the enemies flying around the room when you're fighting them. I want them to feel, heavy and grounded and a threat. All right, so that's a look at that. I'll kind of show you a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So for my enemies, I have been working on this AI system. And so basically what has happened here is the original version of the enemy, all of this code that determined their behavior was just in that actor's event graph. So essentially, I would need to copy and paste that for any other enemy that I wanted to have the same behavior. And then, on some things I might have to change out a variable or something because it wouldn't apply to that next enemy. So what I've been working on is using the actual behavior tree system. So this is something that I can apply to any enemy as like a behavior component, essentially. So what's happening here is for the behavior tree, it is prioritized from top to bottom and from left to right. So we start up here and then we go down to a selector. So it's saying, do one of these things. It prioritizes the left side. So over here I have the chase sequence. So this is where it's says if you detect the player, basically try to get within melee attack distance. So right here I've set it so the attack range is 150. You can set that to whatever you want. If your enemy has a ranged attack and you want them to be able to attack when they're 800 units away, you can change that here. So basically it does this, if it sees me, it does this chase sequence. If it doesn't see me, it then selects this over here, which is the patrol sequence. So for the patrol sequence, basically what I'm saying is there's two steps to this. First, you find a spot that you can reach that's within 700 units. So the patrol radius 700, and then the stop distance is 100. So find a spot within 700 units, walk to that spot, and you can stop within 100 units of that spot. So that's just a little placeholder units for their patrolling, walking around behavior. I'm sure that's something that I will tweak as I make some changes here, but once it finds that spot and walks to it, it now waits essentially 4 seconds plus or minus 1 second. So a random time between 3 and 5 seconds before it will find a new spot to patrol to and do the whole thing. So over here, when it does see me, it will essentially do two things in parallel. So the simple parallel here means it will try to do these two things. It'll prioritize the one on the left, and then the one on the right will be secondary. So the primary thing is, get within the distance of the player, and then once you're there, attack the target. So, as long as it sees you, it will continue trying to do these two things. Yeah, so here's the actual attack code here. So it checks to make sure that the object that is using this has the AI behavior that I created. And if it does, it'll say, okay, do the attack function. It waits. Essentially, it does, where'd it go? So this little blue square essentially is this function here. So it does this, and then it returns the animation. So here's that return again. So it says, delay for that amount of time. So that's letting it play through the animation. And then I added another delay of 1 second just to make it so they're not constantly attacking you every single opportunity they get. There is a little bit of delay between there. Something I might do is add a little bit of randomness to that. But essentially that ends it. It says it's finished. And now if he's still close enough to attack you, he'll just do it again. If you're too far away, he'll switch back to chase mode until he gets close enough to attack again. So that is a kind of introduction to the AI system. And then I'll show you a little bit of the UI stuff for the equipment. So essentially there are 3 different UIs involved in this thing. So I have the equipment menu, which consists of this canvas. And then within this canvas, I have a vertical box on the left for the shield and the relic, and a vertical box on the right for the weapon and the offering. And these things are all sized and anchored in certain ways so that, as you change the resolution of the game, it kind of adjusts and keeps everything in place. And then within these things, I have other references to other widgets. So these are each buttons that go back to equipable slot. So this is the widget for determining how that actual slot looks and functions. So I have, a button over the whole thing so that when you click on it, something happens, and an image that goes in the background that gets fed into the widget from the item database, which I guess I should show that. And then what else do I have? Oh yeah, the equipment slot. So this is the widget that shows it how, like, when you click on an inventory slot, which items it lists. So this one, I have an image on the left that again gets fed in from whatever item you pick up, and then these values that also get updated based on whatever item you got picked up. So there's 3 different widgets going on and that encompass this whole like equipment UI. Let me show you my equipment database. So basically the equipment database is a way to keep track of all the items, their names, their, how much damage they do, whether there's like a level requirement, which hand they go in, all that stuff. So essentially, for example, on this Sword 01, I add this and then I can say, all right, what's the name of it? How much damage does it do? What's the required level? What's the image? So this is the image that goes into the equipment slot after you've selected it. The icon is the image that you see, the smaller image that you see in the list of items. The static mesh is, what actual mesh is it using? The type is I have main hand, offhand, armor, offering, or relic. I don't currently have any thing that uses armor, so I don't know if I'm going to keep that or not, but those are different types of items. And then I have the socket that it goes into. Right now I only have two sockets. It's sword socket in your right hand or the shield socket in your left hand. And then I have a place down here for weight that I haven't used yet. But this is a pretty easy way to, I can just go in here and say add item, fill out these things, save it. And then if I go into here and I drag my equipment blueprint into the world, now I can go down here to my little item data, and I can change this to any item that is in my database. So it's a nice, easy way. Why am I not picking this up? Okay, I don't know what's going on. All right, let's try that again. So we're going to, let's do Rusty Sword. What the hell? That's not a rusty sword. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. My game is acting up. Maybe it's because I didn't save this. Let's remove that, save that. All right. We're going to add this item. We're going to, DB equipment. Wood axe. Here we go. All right. All right. So now that I've picked up two weapons, you'll see I have two options here. Here's a slightly older version of the UI I was messing with. It's this one has got like some bevel and emboss things going on. I don't know, messing with different ideas, but I'll definitely need some better art at some point. But you can see now that I have two items. I can go in here, switch between them, switch back, so I don't lose anything. I can always go back and switch to something else that I already have. You will notice that, even after I equip this, if I close the menu and bring it back up, it's gone again. So that is something that I got to figure out. But yeah, so this has been a lot of work, very confusing. I have struggled a lot with this stuff, like going through the tutorial, and I suddenly get to a point where I do everything he does, but something doesn't work. And I can't just ask the guy, hey, why isn't mine working? And so I have to start Googling and asking questions on Reddit and stuff like that. So not a lot of glamorous, cool things to show lately, just because I've been dealing with all this. But, you know, we're getting there. I'm going to continue chugging through this tutorial for the parts that I definitely want. I need to get the enemy damage going for sure. And then I need to start thinking about, animations and things like that, and how to prevent the enemies from flying all over the place when you start fighting them. But definitely this stuff hasn't been as instantly gratifying as some of like just the making the world look cool stuff. That's, you can spend an hour and make something that looks pretty awesome, whereas this, you can spend an hour and end up with something that doesn't work and you're just frustrated. So I knew this was going to be tough, which is why I was putting it off for a while, but we're getting there. We're hanging in. So, all right, I'll hopefully have something cooler to show you next time, but thanks again for watching. See you later.